Hi, today is 21st of February 2016. My name is Alex Varela and this is the video number 15. As usual, I'm going to divide this video into 4 parts: events and people that I forgot to mention before, confessions and admissions made by the voice, events that took place over the last days, and my theories or conclusions. Starting with the events that I forgot to mention before, I will start with mentioning South Australia. The thing is that during the process of emigrating to Australia with my family back in 2002 and 3, there was a scoring system in place for skilled migrants, which is I think the same case now, I don't know. But I think it was a scoring system in place, and due to my age, I was 43 at the time. My points were not enough to apply for the federal system, meaning that we would not be able to settle in Sydney as it was our intention. So Michael Booney, who was our migrant agent, offered us instead a regional program to emigrate to South Australia, Adelaide. That was a bit of a shock for us. But shortly after being notified by Michael, we received a letter from, I believe it was the Premier back then. I was trying to locate that document in my boxes without any luck so far. But I got an email from Booney mentioning that episode. The thing is that despite the letter welcoming as a new migrant, I thought after some research over the internet that it would be much more difficult for me to find a job over there than in Sydney. So I talked to Michael Booney in Buenos Aires about that situation, and he said he could have a go with the original scheme for Victoria instead. But first, I should write a letter to the Premier of South Australia explaining the reasons I was declining the offer, mentioning that it should be good reasons. So I did. I wrote that letter, I gave him my explanation, that explanation was accepted. Michael Booney proceeded with the State of Victoria application, which eventually would grant us the visa to emigrate in October 2003, with a short term to travel to Melbourne by no later than the 26th of December, about 2.5 months or something like that, which was very strange back then. Usually the process, the period between you were granted the visa and the day that you actually had to travel was a bit longer, 3, 4 until 6 months, but in our case was much shorter than that. I was looking for those documents lately, but I couldn't find them so far. It wouldn't be strange that it had been stolen from my belongings in this house, as it happened before with other documents. The other thing that I remember lately was during our time living in Rosario, 2000-2001, with Vicky and Betty, I remember that we had to give away a young female Dalmatian dog called Lola, who we bought a few months earlier. And that was because Betty and Vicky were moving back to Buenos Aires, and I could no longer take care of the animal since I was working all day. The fact is that it was her who took care of that without giving me more details about who was the receiver. It doesn't have much importance, but I felt that I had to include that even now, because I was also reminded of that a few days ago. I also forgot to mention some people we met here during the period 2003 and 2005. Terry Wallace, the mechanic in Moorabbin, right across the street from Jeff McNamara. Jamie, a young English teacher who used to come to our house in Hampton to give me individual classes. After him, another English professor was Tarin, a young girl from Sri Lanka who she used to give me individual classes at her home in Black Rock, where she lived with back then her fiancé, a Colombian guy. On the 20th of January 2005, I joined an interview with Gareth at County Life Bakery at 21 High Drive Close in Dandenong. By the way, across the road from my Vantage, where I worked briefly in 2010. On February the 2nd, 2005, job interview with Sally Parkinson at level 9, IBM Center, number 60, City Road, South Bank. On February the 10th, 2005, job interview at BioCare with Jacqueline Bignell at 454A Church Street, Richmond. On the 14th of February 2005, job interview at IFC Customs in Tullamarine with Rosalie at number 8 Garden Drive, Tullamarine. In April 2005, we moved from Unit 5, 16 Wave Street, Hampton, where we lived at the time, to 16 Houston Street in Moorabbin. The move was motivated by the fact that my parents-in-law wanted to come to visit us. Back then, the real estate agent was L.J. Hooker, Bridget, the contact, and Constantino, a Greek guy, was the landlord at number 16 Houston Street in Moorabbin. On 19th of April 2005, job interview at On Call People Solutions at number 7 Stone Street, Caulfield South, with Ilana Kogan. On May the 2nd, 2005, job interview with Monique Hampton at her home at number 13 Linwood Grove, Knoxville. May the 9th, 2005, job interview with Rex Moss and Alon Cohen at Ring Optics at number 354 First Floor, South Road, Hampton East. On the 18th of May 2005, job interview with Michelle Symes from Hayes at level 2, number 424 St Kilda Road. On 24th of May 2005, job interview with Joe Pesci at Marketing Direct Australia at number 11 Rotlia Drive, Port Melbourne. On 16th of June, started with working at MDA. On the 2nd of August, I met Rod Ranko, the broker from AMP. On September the 12th, job interview with Rod Shield at Drake, at level 40, number 55 Collins Street. On the 23rd of September, job interview with David Pryor and John Colkelarios at Drake, again, the same address. On October the 11th, I conducted myself 3 job interviews at Marketing Direct Australia to hire a new receptionist or assistant as well. To me, I interviewed Pauline Chivelle, Chloe Liu, Savika Saxena, Diana Tasevska, and Katrina Laurent. Eventually, Chloe Liu was hired. We decided for her back then. Actually, when she left, we called Pauline Chivelle, and she took her position. In regards to confessions and admissions made by the Voice told me that the reason why some bus drivers are upset with me on their buses is because they not only transport people on their vehicles, and he is repeating that Michael Booney, our migrant agent, worked for them. For some reason, I don't know, the Voice this time I'm not quite sure if it is the same, the usual or a different one, mentioning that something about a Dalmatian we used to have in Rosario, which I mentioned before. There's a new guy called Suckman. He's very quiet, sneaky, and sometimes it seems that he's not in his room when he is. So when I asked the Voice about that, he says that he is his employee, and he usually says that he is with him in a house nearby. But I discovered that he's lying, when the guy makes some noises and he suddenly reappears in the house, being quiet in his room. I suppose that the voice that wants me to believe that for him to steal something from my room that he wants when I'm in the kitchen or the toilet, I don't know. But it's very strange what he does. I don't know. In regards to events that took place over the last days, on the 13th of February, Ralph sent me a WhatsApp message saying that he's coming on Sunday to talk a bit further about our cleaning deal. On the 14th, I went to Europa Market using my bike, a bit of coughing, but much less than before. Back at home, after shooting my video, Ralph came by the house. After I explained to him that I proposed the deal because neither Yasser nor now gone nor Honey wanted to do it, the cleaning, it's the reason that I gave my proposal. He said that he was willing to keep it, the deal. He also said Honey asked him about swapping car park places on the driveway. I told him that that was not part of the original agreement, which was, by the way, made last year, due to the fact that he uses his car very late at night and he won't let me sleep, and he agreed with that. So I suppose that the matter was settled for good. I noticed that he was a bit uncomfortable, Ralph, because he was in my room. Perhaps he knew that I was working with my video, I don't know. At some point he repeated that I shouldn't have told Honey about our cleaning deal, and I replied that he seemed to know beforehand. He suddenly froze. I don't know, perhaps they talked to each other over the phone. I suppose that they had a lot of communication. It's my perception. On the 15th of February, Monday, I called Emilia from Max Employment, the regional manager. Left a message in the morning, but she didn't return my call. Next day, on the 16th, after many months, the reminder of an appointment with Max Employment is finally shown on the Centennial website, which is on the 19th, the next appointment, at 10 a.m. I called Emilia. Now she said that my job plan is unlocked and there shouldn't be any problem to be commenced with them. I checked my Gov website and noticed on my profile that the breach was no longer there as one of my providers. Now it was Max Employment under both Job Active and Disability Employment Services, both services. Something that Michael from DIWA later will tell me that was impossible, but it was. It's impossible that one Joseph is what he said. It's impossible that one Joseph provider is providing two different services to the same client, but it happened, and it happened before for many months with two different Joseph providers providing me different services, like the Bridge and Max Employment. I called Matchworks in Dandenong, my previous Joseph provider. I talked to an employee there called Kira or something like that. I asked her whether the agency lost the contract with Centrelink, as I was told by Chris, the team leader at Centrelink Dandenong, on the 12th of February. She didn't know the answer, so she told me that she was going to talk to her manager. I suppose it was Maria, but she didn't tell. After a few minutes, she came back saying that they no longer provided services to people with disabilities. Well, it wasn't my case anyway. I was on Job Active with them, and she also said that contrary to what Chris told me on the 12th of February, she was able to see on her system the 3 appointments that I had with Paul Patterson since the 23rd of November 2015. But she also said that I was transferred to Max Employment. Something is rubbish, because I was the one who asked for the change to DIWA. I rang them and I asked for the change because they didn't do anything for me during those months. She also said I was receiving a DSP, a Disability Support Pension, which is more rubbish, because I've always been on New Star allowance since 2009. We had a bit of an argument, but at the end of the chat she sounded really nervous. I received the feedback that day for the first time on my last video on the 14th of February from a guy called Eduardo Agostini. He asked me why I didn't use the Spanish language on my videos. I answered because I've been living here for more than 12 years now. Superman, the new guy, after 11 days is in the house, approached me to ask if I was taking the day off. But I never told him if I was working or not. So how did he know? I don't know. Is he reading my tweets? Perhaps. I also noticed that my WhatsApp account was set on lifetime service. I never did that. All I know is the first year, which was in 2013, it was free, and after that you have to pay for an annual fee for the service, which I never did. So perhaps it's another case like CXN TV, I don't know. On the 17th of February, I called Billy, the manager of Max Employment in Dandenong, trying to find confirmation of what Emilia, the regional manager, told me a day before. He assured me that I would be able to start on the 19th. He actually said he was 150% sure about that. I also told him about my chat with Kira Matchwells, and after checking with his system, he said that I was receiving New Start allowance and no indication whatsoever of any pension being collected, something that is ridiculous. He was a bit tense at the end of our chat though. Later that day I checked Matchwell's website, and he says that they are, and I'm quoting here, it says that they are a job active and disability employment services provider. So they provide both services. I also checked another website called disabilityemployment.org.au, and it also says that the same thing, meaning that the people at Matchwells don't know the service they provide, or they lie to me big time. That of course also applies to Chris, the team leader at Centrelink Dandenong. Later that day, Ralph came by the house to fix Honey's room door, which was faulty. On the 18th of February 2016, I called Diwa, seeking clarifications about my recent conversations with Matchwells, Max Employment, Centrelink, etc. I talked to Michael first. I described to him my situation. He checked the system and confirmed that Matchwells is both a job active and a DES provider, contrary to what I've been told so far by Matchwells and Centrelink. When I told him about my chat with Chris, he said that DIWA is the only organization responsible for the management of contracts with job service providers, not Centrelink. Meaning that Chris was not in a position to say whether it was cancelled or not. He also told me that for some reason, I don't know, my file was transferred from job active to DES on the 13th of November in 2015. It has to be Chris back then, because it's the day that I met him. But nobody told me anything about that before. Of course. I also told him that Michael, the same guy, that I never received any sort of pension, just New Start allowance since 2009 onwards, and he confirmed that. He added up Centrelink placed me on a stream C, but no reason given either. I told him I felt bullied and discriminated. So he decided to escalate the chat to another official named Leanne. Coincidentally, she told me that we had a chat some weeks ago when I asked them for the change from Matchwells to Max Employment. So she remembered our conversation over the phone and me asking them for a change. After describing my situation again to her, she decided to call Billy, the manager at Max Employment. After a few minutes, she got back and told me that she said that once I was commenced with them on job active, the link with the DES will be eliminated, and effectively that will be done once my job plan is finally locked with them, with Max Employment. She said that people make mistakes, Alex, and I said, well, she was referring to the information that I was given by Matchworks, and there was no malice. This is what she said. I'm quoting. I got serious doubts about that. But to complete the bizarre picture, she said now that the obstacle preventing me to start with Max Employment was an unfinished job plan from Matchworks. So that was the third version of events I was given over the same episode last week. Remembering that, it's Masuda on the 10th of February told me in the morning that there was a pending task from the bridge employment. The same day later, when I talked to Emilia over the phone, Emilia contradicted Masuda, saying that it was a Centrelink pending task, not a bridge one. Something that triggered my visit to them, to Centrelink, on the 12th of February, when I met Chris. But now, this lady, Leanne, is saying that it was a Matchworks problem, a Matchworks pending task, a job plan, unfinished job plan. Well, I told her that that was not the case. She admitted that at the end of our chat that I was a bit bullied, and I should have, and if I should have more problems, I should call her again. At some point, I told her that I haven't seen my daughter since 2009. She remained quiet about that. On the 19th of February 2016, the last Friday, appointment at 10 a.m. at Max Employment. I missed the bus, and I was 15 minutes late, so I gave her a call saying that. When I got there, Chelsea greeted me at the reception, and Masuda was sitting behind her. As she said hi to me, and I smiled at her while pointing my index finger towards her. And she suddenly, her face suddenly changed to serious mode. I suppose that she's watching my videos, I don't know. Chelsea told me that Buni, another female employee, was going to take care of my case. After 45 minutes of waiting, she introduced herself, saying that Sam, another girl, was the one who was going to meet me. So more waiting, and then pretty much an hour after I arrived there, I met Sam. She told me that she was working on the disability side. So that was like a terrible joke. I got really angry, and I asked for Billy, the manager, who was on a training session. I also said I talked to Diwa before. I already talked to Diwa the day before. She said she was not the right person then, and I couldn't agree more. So Masuda was the one dealing with my case again, as it was on the 10th of February. She started the registration process in the computer with some hysterical coughing around the office. Not before she insisted with the benefits of staying with the service provided by the DES. Contradicting what Emilia told me before, she insisted the actual problem was a pending task from the bridge employment. So I told Masuda I needed a full-time job and fixing my car was a priority. She said that she didn't like public transport either. She recommended me bringing my resume in a flash drive as a reminder perhaps of my last encounter with the crooks at CIPSA in March 2014. They always give me some sort of indication in regards to these guys, which I hate. She finally was able to print out the job plan from the computer this time, but I didn't want to sign it. And I asked her, "You're not going to sign it?" "No, it's not important," she said. The difference here is that Matchworks was the job plan from Matchworks was a handwritten one, and I'm going to explain that later on. On my way back, riding the bus towards Waverley Gardens, I was checking places inside where they can transport other things than passengers, as the boy suggested a few days before. I also, it's worth to mention that the girls at Max Employment were so desperate to convince me to stay with ES services that they reminded me of the once in a week attendance requirement. Well, actually, the requirement is 3 times a week, and that is something that made me lodge some complaint with them, because I can't attend 3 times a week. But that was the kind of thing that I received back last Friday. Later at Safeway, while I was finishing my shopping groceries, and I was waiting to pay at the counter, an old lady said I was a young guy. She said, and should we wait for her to finish some stuff with coupons of Children's Hospital. I told her that she should do whatever she has to. More bullshit everywhere as usual. On the 20th of February, the team through WhatsApp an answer on behalf of my daughter Vicky, that's saying that she had to work until late and couldn't talk to me. Later at night, while cooking, Honey approached me to talk about swapping car park places at on the driveway again. Something I settled with Ralph last Sunday, or is what I thought, when we talked about our cleaning deal as well. The thing is, the conversation escalated to a heated argument. We exchanged insults and he became physical. I threatened to call the police. He said that I should take my medication at some point. I asked him who told him I was taking medication, because I'm not taking any. Thankfully, thanks God. He answered it was a sort of a joke. He called Ralph. He talked on the phone with him outside. I tried to talk to him. I called him Ralph again, but he didn't pick up the phone. So I sent him a WhatsApp message. He said that he's coming to talk on Tuesday about this. I answered that I don't want to talk about this anymore, that it was settled last Sunday and one of us should leave the house, either Honey or myself. In regards to my theories or conclusions, the fact that Chris, the team leader at Central in Dandenong, didn't want to talk to Emilia, the regional manager at Max Employment, the last 12th of February, and last Friday's Masuda openly contradicted her about the real reason I was not commenced with them, makes me think that either she was lying or she doesn't work for the agency at all. I mean, this lady, Emilia, who I always talk to over the phone, never in person. But neither Chris nor didn't want to talk to her, and nor Masuda was contradicting her, although she was a superior in theory. I think at this stage that another theory conclusion, I think that at this stage the authority of the voice is under intense scrutiny, especially over the last days. The fact that Masuda insisted that the breach with the pending tax was actually the problem to start me with them is confirmed with the fact that she was able to print the job plan from the system in opposition to the handwritten signed by Paul Patterson on the 23rd of November 2015 from Matchworks, which was never entered into the system. And maybe she didn't want to sign the job plan because she was worried about it. I don't know. But all previous job plans from all the previous job service providers, they have been always given a copy signed by a consultant from the agency. So I signed a copy for them, and they signed a copy for my records. And that happened throughout the years with all the job service providers. So there is some my conclusions, theories. I think there is a lot of information, a lot of things happened over the last week. I suppose that there will be some news in regards on this week as well. I got another appointment on Friday. Let's see how we go. I'm planning to do other things. It depends on them what they want in regards to if you want me to stay here or want me to kick me out. At this point, the relationship with this guy is deteriorated, and I think that one of us should leave. I don't know. It's up to them. But at the moment, it's all what I got to say. And until the next time, thank you. Goodbye.